The engagement party was extravagant, crystal chandeliers, polished silverware, and laughter that echoed like a performance. My sister, Emily, was the star of the evening, wrapped in designer silk and attention. My parents glowed beside her, proudly introducing their soon-to-be son-in-law to every guest as if he were royalty. I stood near the back, quietly nursing a glass of water. I wasn't supposed to be there, not really. Mom had said earlier that week, "It's for family and friends who've made something of themselves. You can come if you promise not to embarrass us." I had smiled politely and said nothing. After all, I wasn't successful in their eyes. I had left my corporate job a year ago to start my own business, something they'd called a phase. When the startup didn't take off instantly, they made sure everyone knew about their disappointing son. That night, the comments came wrapped in laughter. "Still chasing that little dream of yours?" Dad said loudly, patting my shoulder. "You should take a page from Emily. She knows how to pick stability." Guests chuckled. Emily giggled behind her wine glass. I clenched my jaw, forcing a smile. The air smelled of roses and expensive champagne, but all I could taste was bitterness. Then Mom joined in, her tone sharp but playful. "You've always been our creative one. Maybe one day you'll find something real to do." Laughter again. The kind that doesn't just sting, it burns. I was about to walk away when Emily's fiancé, Mark, who had been quiet all evening, cleared his throat. His gaze moved from my parents to me. "Actually," he said calmly, "I've been meaning to talk to you." The chatter around us dimmed slightly. My parents exchanged puzzled looks. "Oh?" Mom asked, curious. Mark nodded. "Your son's company. He's the one who designed the campaign that helped our firm land the global client last quarter. We didn't even realize it was him until I saw his name on the contract." Silence spread like a wave. My father blinked. "What?" Mark smiled. "He's not just talented. He's exceptional. In fact, I was going to ask if he'd consider consulting for our marketing division after the wedding. We could use someone who sees things differently." The room shifted. Heads turned. The same people who'd been smirking seconds ago were now pretending to be impressed. My mother's face froze in disbelief. Emily's smile faltered. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. For the first time in years, I saw something I never thought I'd see in my parents' eyes: shame. I raised my glass toward Mark and simply said, "Congratulations, both of you." Then I walked out of the hall, the sound of applause fading behind me. They had called me a failure, but life had just rewritten that definition for everyone in the room. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Missed calls from Mom. Texts from Dad. Even Emily had sent a half-hearted, "We need to talk." I ignored them all and went for a long walk through the city. The night before kept replaying in my head, Mark's words, the stunned silence, my parents' faces when they realized the son they mocked had quietly built something real. That night at the party had been years in the making. They never believed in me. Not when I quit my high-paying corporate job to start something on my own, not when I struggled to pay rent, and certainly not when I told them success wasn't just about titles and salaries. To them, worth was measured by prestige, and since I didn't fit their mold, I was their disappointment. I started my business from my bedroom, with a second-hand laptop and a stack of ideas. I spent nights learning everything: marketing, design, client management, while they laughed about their dreamer son who couldn't hold a real job. What they never knew was that those sleepless nights had begun to pay off. 2 years later, I'd signed contracts with companies across 3 countries. My firm wasn't flashy, but it was stable. I didn't tell them because I didn't owe them validation anymore. I wanted peace, not praise. But fate, apparently, had its own sense of timing. By the afternoon, I finally picked up my mother's call. "You embarrassed us," she started immediately. Her voice was sharp, defensive. "You could have told us about your work. We looked like fools." I let out a quiet breath. "I didn't tell you because you never cared to ask. She fell silent for a moment, then sighed. You know how your father gets. He just wants what's best for you. I almost laughed. No, he wants what makes him look best. There's a difference. Before she could respond, I hung up. I wasn't angry anymore, just tired. A few days later, I got a call from Mark. Hey, he said, I wanted to apologize for how that night played out. I didn't mean to embarrass your family, but I couldn't just sit there. You didn't embarrass anyone, I said. You just told the truth. He chuckled. Well, truth has a funny way of shaking rooms. Then he paused. Listen, I meant what I said. I want to bring you on board as a creative partner. The contract's yours if you want it. I accepted. Not because I needed validation, but because I wanted to keep growing, building, doing what I loved. A week later, the contract was finalized. My company's name appeared on the same paperwork that my family used to brag about at parties, but this time, it was my name that carried weight. Word spread fast. Mutual relatives started calling, pretending they'd always believed in me. My parents, too, softened their tone. My father sent a short message, "We're proud of you. Come home for dinner sometime." I didn't reply. Not out of anger, but out of peace. I had moved on from needing their approval. One evening, I was driving home after a late meeting when I passed by the old family house. Lights on, laughter inside. I slowed down for a moment, thinking about all the years I'd spent trying to earn a seat at that table. Years I'd spent proving myself to people who had already decided who I was. And now the irony was sharp. The failure they'd pushed aside was the one holding steady while their image of perfection was quietly unraveling. A week later, Emily called. Her voice was shaky. "Mark and I postponed the wedding," she said softly. "There's been some tension between him and Dad." I didn't ask for details. I already knew. Pride and ego don't crumble quietly. They collapse in noise and regret. That night, I sat at my desk, looked at my company's growth chart on the screen, and smiled. Not with triumph, but with relief. I had finally built something solid, something real, away from the shadows of that family name. For once, I wasn't running away from being called a failure. I was living proof that failure, when handled right, becomes the foundation for everything better that follows. A month later, I finally visited home, not for validation, but closure. The dinner table felt smaller, quieter. My parents spoke carefully, like they were afraid of saying the wrong thing. My father finally looked up and said, "You turned out stronger than we ever imagined." I smiled faintly. I always was. You just didn't see it. We didn't dwell on the past. Some things don't need to be fixed. They just need to be left behind. As I left that night, my mother hugged me tightly, whispering, "We're proud of you." Driving away, I realized I no longer needed to hear it. Their approval didn't define me anymore. My peace did.